Okay, the last section in chapter 4 is interest rates. In the last section, we introduced an important application of percentages to financial literacy, namely interest rates. When you use a credit card, you're borrowing money from the bank that issued the credit card. Borrowing money is called taking out a loan. The bank charges a fee for this service of lending you money, and the fee is a percentage of the amount that you borrowed. This is called the interest rate, and it's a percentage, and you've seen it all over the place, right? Buy a car, 4% interest rate. The fee itself is called interest. So interest is dollars. Interest rate, of course, is a rate. It is interest over principal, or interest over the amount borrowed. So at the end of each month, the bank adds up all your charges and sends you a bill. If you pay the bill in full, they don't charge interest. You only get charged interest on the amount that you do not pay, and this is called the balance. They do require you to make a minimum payment each month, but it's typically very small. Really, the bank wants you to carry a balance so that they can charge you these fees. So here's example 417, right? You spend $500 on your new credit card in December on holiday gifts. You receive a bill on January 1st for $500, but don't have the extra money, so you only make the minimum payment of $25. If they charge you an interest rate of 2% each month, that's 2% each month, so that would be an APR, or an annual percentage rate, of 2 times 12, which is 24% per year, which is typical for an interest on a credit card. So if they charge you 2% each month, how much interest would they charge you on your balance of $475? Assuming no new charges in January, what will your balance be due? What balance will be due on February 1st? So you're trying to find out, you're getting charged 2% of, multiply, $475. So you can do this two ways. You can set up a proportion, right? 2% means 2 out of 100. And that's really $2 in interest for every $100 borrowed. And that's going to equal some amount of interest over the $475 that you owe. And you can cross multiply and divide. However, we learned the end result is identical to taking 2% of $475. So you can do it this way. It's the same thing, which is just $475 divided by 100 times 2, which we've done many a time. And now you can just put this in your calculator, and you'll get an interest of $950. The interest of $950 on the balance of $475, assuming no new charges, the new balance is going to be $475 plus the interest, which is $950, which we just calculated here. So your total due will be $484.50. Now here it says the monthly interest rate of 2% is not how banks will report the interest rate. Instead, they use the annual percentage rate, the APR, and that's divided by 12 to get the monthly rate. And like I said before, the 2% would have an APR of 24%, because 2 times 12 is 24. So the bank, your credit card, if you look at it, it's going to tell your statement what your annual percentage rate is. To find the monthly rate, you have to divide by 12. So here's one that we'll do, right? You spent $1,800 on a credit card this spring for a spring trip in Florida. You received a bill on April 1st for $1,800 and immediately make the minimum payment of 3% of the balance. So you're going to pay 3% of $1,800. That's the minimum payment. What is your minimum payment based on your balance of 1,800? I'm going to do this by setting up a proportion and also taking 3% of 1,800. So here I'm going to set the proportion up. I want you to think about what the first ratio is going to be. You pause it and I'm going to put it up. So there's your first ratio, 3 out of 100, because you are paying 3% of your balance. So that's 3 out of 100. And what goes over here? Well, you don't know how much you're paying, but you're paying an equal amount of 3 out of 100. So that's some number out of 1,800. So you would cross multiply and divide. Let's see if you can work that out. Hit pause, and I'll put up the answer. So that's one way to do it. You're going to pay, for every $100 you owe, you're going to pay $3. That's 3%. You owe $1,800, so what's the equivalent ratio? And it's $54. So these are equivalent ratios. Now, another way of doing it is just simply saying, okay, I'm going to pay 3% of $1,800. And you can do it in one step that way, and you're going to get the same answer, $54. This is very simple. This is identical to what we did in chapter 2 and 3. Take it apart of the whole. We did it with number lines. So how much do you owe after you pay the minimum balance? Well, you're going to owe $1,800 minus $54. So you're going to owe $1,746, I believe. Yeah. So now that we know what our balance is after we pay the minimum amount, we're going to have to find out how much interest we're going to have to pay to the credit card company for carrying this balance. So the first thing we need to do is we got to find out what the monthly interest rate is. The credit card tells you the APR, which is the annual percentage rate, is 25.6%. But they don't tell you what the monthly rate is. So we're going to have to take this annual rate and divide it by 12. I think I can just copy and paste it, and there we go. We get a percentage for the interest rate. We don't get a decimal, right? Half of 50%, for example, is 25%. So that's our interest rate. Let me put that down here. And I'm going to put that as the monthly interest rate. Okay, so now we can do this two ways. We can set up a proportion, because here's one ratio. And let me put the balance here, which is 1746. And I'm going to set up a proportion. Now, think about it. You might want to put it on pause. Think about how to do that. So there's how to do it with a proportion, right? There's our first ratio. That means you're going to pay $2.13.3 for every $100 that you owe. So that's how much you're going to pay because you owe that much. So So this becomes 3724 here. So those two ratios are equal, like 1/2 equals 2/4. So that's the interest that you will pay. Now, an easier way of doing that, I think, is just to say that you want to take $2.133 over 100, which is 2.133% of 1746. And this, of course, means multiply, and you will get the same answer. So how much do you owe at the end of April? Well, you're going to owe the balance that you carried plus the interest that they're charging you. And that's going to equal, I'm going to have to use my calculator. Well, that's why we have calculators. Which is 1,783.24.